Hi everyone. So in this video, I'm going to talk about two special right triangles that we will be using a lot. So before I actually continue with the problems, I'd like you to really take a moment and attempt every single question before you see my solution, because it will help you to get better at what we are trying to do. Okay, so these are the two special right triangles, like 36 to 90 and 45, 45, 90-degree triangles. And we do have some relation between its sides. So which is we have to remember, and then I'm gonna start with that first. So in this triangle, the 30 degrees is a smaller angle, so the opposite side is called the smaller leg. Okay, so I'm gonna call this side is x unit, whatever. And then the angle 90 is the largest angle. The opposite to the 90 is called hypotenuse. In this 36-90 triangle, the larger side, which is the largest side, which is the hypotenuse, is the twice of the smaller leg, which is going to be 2 times x. And then this is one relation. So if you know the smaller leg in this 36 to 90, the hypotenuse would be just the twice as much. And the other leg in this triangle, so which is opposite the 60 degrees, is the smaller leg times square root of 3. So the x times root 3. And we can prove this as well, but for now I'm going to just apply it. And that's the first triangle. And I let you to remember this in words, meaning that like in the 36 to 90 triangle, the smaller leg is half of the hypotenuse, or hypotenuse is twice as much of the smaller leg. And the larger leg, which is this side in this case, this side that is opposite the 60, the larger leg is the smaller leg times square root of 3. So that is the relation that we have to remember. In the second special right triangle, if I know this is, let's say, y unit, which is this leg will be also the same because this is 45, 45, which means isosceles triangle, so the legs will be same. And the hypotenuse in this special triangle would be the leg times square root of 2. And if you know the hypotenuse, you may divide by root 2 to get the legs. If you know the leg, you can multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse. Again, these are the two relations that we have to remember. So let's actually use this in our problem. So the first question is telling us the 45, 45, and then this is 2. Since this is 45, 45, so that means the legs are equal, which is our second special right triangle. If this is 2, this is also 2. And the hypotenuse is the leg times square root of 2, which means C would be 2 times square root of 2. That's your answer. And we probably need to plug into calculator to find the nearest 10, which is, I'll do that. So for this guy, you know, the side that is opposite the 60 is given 6. Make sure that the 60 degrees is opposite to the smaller leg times root 3, which means if I say this is like something, then I will multiply that something by root 3 to get this 6. So since this is only known side, so I can say 6 will be this leg times root 3. So which is why I should divide 6 by root 3 to get the smaller leg. I hope that is clear. So again, the 60 degrees is opposite to the smaller leg times root 3. In this problem, we are given the 6, which is opposite to 60 degrees. So which means whatever number you have right here needs to be multiplied by square root of 3 to get this number. So to get this leg, I need to divide 6 by root 3 to get this guy. So which is going to be this. And you can plug this in calculator, which is probably will be okay. But let me write it for now without simplifying yet. Okay, so this is a smaller leg basically. And if you multiply this number by 2, I should be getting the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse was the smaller leg times 2. So which is why if you multiply this number by 2, so you will get 2 times 6 over root 3. And that would be just 12 over root 3. So 12 over square root of 3. And this is the answer, but I would leave my answer in exact form in radical, like 2 root 2 or 12 over root 3. Maybe I should simplify a bit more. But since the question was asking nearest 10, so I have to plug these in calculator to get my decimal values. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that as well. So 2 root 2, so this is 2. and then times square root of 2. And that would be our first number, which is 2.82. But we are looking for the nearest 10, so that should be 2.8, right? So for b, that's 12 over root 3. So I will just divide 12 by square root of 3, which is 6.9. And you can always check your work to see if these numbers are something you do expect. You do expect larger than 2 because the c is the hypotenuse, which is larger than 2. And the hypotenuse is b, which is 6.9, larger than any legs, which looks good, okay? So we can take a look at our answer. So it should be right. Yep, that was correct. So let's take a look at the second one. And I don't want to remove those two special right triangles, so I'm going to just clean the additional work that I had for the question itself. So now, by using these special right triangles, I'd like you to pause the video and try this problem based on our first example and see if you can get the same result that I will get. So I hope you just did it. I'm going to continue. So, you know, this is 45, 45, 90-degree triangle. So if this leg is 6, that means this leg is also 6. And the hypotenuse will be leg times square root of 2, which is, you remember right here. So that should be 6 times root 2. Then we are done. And for this one, this is kind of the same as the previous problem. Only thing changes is just the number. Since the side that is opposite to 60 is given, so I have to get this number by multiplying this side by root 3, which means if I know this guy, I can divide by root 3 to get this number. So that should be 4 over basically root 3. And if I multiply this smaller leg, because that's the opposite, 30 degrees, that's why it's smaller leg, I need to double this number to get 8. If you multiply this fraction by 2, so you will get 8 over square root of 3, and we are done. So again, the question was now asking different stuff. Right now, it's asking to write in the simplest radical form, which means we are not using the calculator. So this is already simplified, 6 times root 2, which is we are good. But this number 8 over root 3 is not actually simplified. What I mean by this is not simplified, if you are a radical number in denominator, so we cannot leave it that way. We have to deal with this by making that rational number. But how do we do that? We do multiply this root 3 by itself, so we can multiply these two numbers to get just 3. But when I multiply this number by 3, I do change my fraction, so I cannot do that. So I will multiply numerator as well. And then 8 times root 3 will be 8 times root 3. And if you multiply root 3 by root 3, which is square root of 9, that's just 3. That's the reason why we multiply by itself, so we can get a nice number. And that's your answer. So let's plug those as well. So D was 6 root 2. Okay, and then A is 8 root 3. I think it's not correct, so I should do division and 3. So this is the answer. Okay, so we got the second question. So let's take a look at the next one. Again, I'll ask you to pause the video and attempt this now on your own and see if you do get this question. So I assume you just did it, so let's continue now. So I'm not sure if you see the difference between this and the previous two problems. So at least for this triangle. So now we are given the hypotenuse, not the leg, and then we are looking for the leg. So if you remember, the hypotenuse was the leg times root 2 in 45, 45, 90. So which means when you multiply c by square root of 2, I should be getting 8, which means c has to be 8 divided by square root of 2. Since we are looking for still a radical form, so we have to simplify this as much as possible. So if you remember the previous problem, so we can get rid of this number from denominator by multiplying by itself. But I cannot do this without the numerator. So that will be 8 root 2 over root 2 times root 2 is just 2. And that will be equal to 4 because 8 over 2 is 4 times root 2. And that is your C basically for root 2. Some people may do this in their head easily, but this is for root 2. For this guy, this is easier than the previous two 30, 60, 90 because the smaller leg is 4. If you remember, the smaller leg will be double to get the hypotenuse. If you multiply this by 2, you will get the hypotenuse, which is 8, which they are not asking, but I'm going to write it for the sake of learning. And the other leg, which is the longer leg, is opposite to 60, is the smaller leg times square root of 3, which is this one. So D has to be 4 times square root of 3, and this is already simplest version. So let's go ahead and check that as well. So the D is 4 root 3, and then C is 4 root 2. Okay, so let's do one more. So go ahead and try this now and see if you do get the answer on your own after those 3 questions. So the question says the hypotenuse is 5. So if you remember, the hypotenuse was the leg times root 2 in the 45, 45. So which means I can divide this 5 by root 2 to get the leg. So that should be 5 over root 2, right? And so we are going to find in nearest 10, which means we are going to plug this in calculator. And in this triangle, the side that are opposite to the 30 is given, which is my smaller leg. So if you multiply smaller leg by square root of 3, so you will get longer leg, so which is 3 times root 3. And if I want to find the hypotenuse, which wasn't asking, but I will double the smaller leg, which is going to be 6. So let's plug these in calculator so we can get final answer. So the 5 over, since they're asking nearest 10, I just didn't want to bother myself to simplify this first and then plug in calculator after, because the calculator will tell me the immediate response. That's 5 over root 2. So where is my, okay, this is root 2. So 3.5 is basically B. And for A is 3.3 times root 3, right? So let's plug that 3 times square root of 3. And that's, it says 5.19, but that is closer to 5.2. So that should be rounded as 5.2. And that is my answer. Okay, so we got 4 questions. I hope that will help you. And I'd like you to do a little bit more practice until you really feel much better about this topic, because this is one of the key concepts, okay? I'll see you in the next video.